If I were musically inclined, I would start by singing I Love a Parade. Here we are in August in 1998, getting ready for a big celebration, the 150th anniversary of the town of Schuyler Falls. We're located right in the center of the village of Morrisonville right now, only about 80 feet from my house, not very far from the Morrisonville fire station, and for a very good reason, because in about 15 minutes, the parade celebrating this 150th anniversary of the town of Schuyler Falls will come right by here. I will be the master of ceremonies on the back of this Jefford Steel and Engineering truck where a platform is set up and a reviewing stand in just a short time. Fire Chief Darren Seymour and his staff have been working very hard to put this parade together. It looks like there are going to be almost 50 units in this parade, and it should be an awful lot of fun. But that's only a tiny portion of a week-long celebration for the 150th anniversary of the town of Schuyler Falls. Because it was back in April, early in 1848, when they broke away from the town of Plattsburgh and became an entity. A few months later, their first official meeting was held, and the rest, as they say, is history. A lot of things are happening during the course of this week. First of all, the parade, and parade is always fun. They were out there putting things together at 7 o'clock this morning. And let me explain what the parade route will be. Is I'll be up on the stage, and Calvin will be shooting the parade for you later on, and we'll have very little commentary except what you can hear through the sound. For those who are familiar with Morrisonville and the town of Schuyler Falls, Route 22B is the main street. That's the route that comes through. East of here, it breaks off in a Y from Route 3. Route 3, as you know, heads up the line and ends up in Bloomingdale and Saranac Lake. Route 22B, which is called Beckwith Street, way up there where you can look now, it branches off to the left up the hill and heads out toward Peru. There's also a three-way branch right up there at that intersection. The branch to the right from Route 22B is the Sand Road, which goes up past the school, the present elementary school. And the low road next to the river is called the Kent Falls Road. It's only passable for a couple of miles now, as the old bridge down there has been closed for a few years. The face of this entire community has changed a great deal over the years. It was 1961 when I first moved to the Plattsburgh area to come to work at a local radio station that there was a massive rebuilding process going on for this road right here. For much of its history, it was a dirt road, and there are many photographs which people will be viewing as part of a little museum throughout the day and the week that show that. But in 1961, Route 22B changed the entire face of this community, moved out much wider, and things have been far different since then, but there's still a lot of people who remember what life was like back in the old days. In the 1950s, there was a tragic fire not far from me where the old Morrisonville fire station burned to the ground. It was an incredible thing that happened in the middle of the night. The telephone and electrical wires were burned off, and the sirens couldn't ring, so it was very difficult to get help here to save the fire station. A next-door neighbor, Bernie Parrott, tried to get over and get one of the trucks out, and he got it about halfway out when the fire engine's gas tank, which was located right beneath the seat of the vehicle, blew up, and he was a very lucky guy that he didn't get that fire truck out at that time. So since the 1950s, we've had a brand new fire station, a very vital volunteer fire company here, as you well know, but as so many wonderful North Country communities, they're close-knit. These neighborhoods are what makes up the part of that great quality of life that we talk about here in the North Country. And the town of Schuyler Falls, built around its church religious community, its fire station, and of course the school district, is a very close-knit unit. Up until 1957, there was a school, a high school and grade school right here in this community, not very far from the present St. Alexander's Church. As a matter of fact, St. Alexander's Church, just about a block from here, was built right on the grounds of the old Morrisonville High School, grades 1 through 12. And there was another church called St. Alexander's Church, which was in an open lot right near the rectory, not very far from St. Alexander's Church. Many of our viewers, I realize, have no idea what I'm talking about because they may never have come to either Morrisonville or Schuyler Falls, but we'd love to have them come down. Unfortunately, this program may not be airing until this celebration is over for this year, but I imagine they'll start very soon looking toward the future and other celebrations. Little towns like to celebrate. They love to have parades. Calvin and I have had the pleasure of attending a number of these celebrations and pre-celebration festivities throughout the course of 1998. I don't know what there is about 1998, but it's a good year to celebrate anniversaries, and it's an especial pleasure for me to be here to celebrate this one in the town of Schuyler Falls. Over this way to my right is my home, which I should mention was part of an estate, the Riley Estate here, and was built in 1880. The tallest part of the peaked roof that you see facing us was originally a shed. It contained horses and a tool shop for many years and was ultimately turned into a home in the 1950s and has been added on so that somebody who came here from 100 years ago, I'm sure, would not recognize that home at all. But there are wonderful memories connected with it, and we've lived here since the early 1970s. The large house in front of that, which was actually abandoned for about 4 years, was one of the premier homes in this neighborhood for many, many years with a slate roof. How often do you see beautiful slate roofs like that anymore? Many of the town's population thought this building was just going to fall into rack and ruin, but it's recently been purchased by city policeman Jim Leonard and his wife. They run a video store across the road, on the Gagnon property, and they're going to move and put a video store in here, so it will have a brand new life, and this driveway will ultimately be paved before this summer is through, and things will be different. I had to get a quick education because I am going to take a walking historical tour of this community later on this afternoon about 2 o'clock. And even though I know some of the homes in the community, I needed to learn a lot more about the history of those homes. And it's been a lot of fun to ride around on my bike, walk around with my wife and the dog last night, talk to neighbors and get little anecdotes about some of the homes and the people who lived in them and the stories connected with those people, and we did that. So Mike Burgess, the current historian for the town of Schuyler Falls, will be accompanying me, and hopefully a nice crowd of people just walking. What's wrong with walking? Sometimes we are after quicker and quicker transportation and forget that you can learn a great deal more by walking around your neighborhood, meeting the people and seeing the homes and learning a little bit about the history. So, within 7 or 8 minutes, if things go well, this parade will get underway. People in the town of Schuyler Falls will visit. I'm sure lots of people who used to live here will be coming back, especially for this occasion today. There are events not only planned for today, but throughout the entire week. And next weekend, the weekend of whatever that is, the 22nd and 23rd, 24th, all of that stuff, there'll be a massive community garage sale, which is a big event in anybody's life. And these streets will be so busy, there'll have to be somebody engaged in traffic control, I'm sure. Everybody will get their junk out of the garage and put it out in the street, and I'll do my usual big sign that says, "Take it. It's free. I don't want to put the tags on it." So that'll be fun. So thank you for joining us for our little corner today, right close to my home right here, the little homestead in the middle of Morrisonville. Enjoy the parade, and we'll be back to talk a lot more about this celebration later on.
The official warning siren here at the fire station, but it sounds like it's going to be one of those everybody's going to blow their sirens parades.
Welcome everyone.
Now let's listen to Gordy.
To the town of Schuyler Falls 150th anniversary celebration parade. Today, on this beautiful day in August in 1998, everybody loves the parade, and unless I miss my guess, this will be one of the good parades that you've seen in your lifetime. We have between 40 and 50 units in this parade, which will be passing by. We'll make a right-hand turn on Mason Street, and we'll end up at the Town Hall. We hope all of you will travel around our community later today to enjoy all the things we have to help us celebrate the 150th anniversary of the town of Schuyler Falls. As the units pass by, I'm sure I won't have to tell you to give them all the encouragement they need. A lot of people have spent a lot of time putting this parade together today, so we know it's going to be a good one. In our parade represents the New York State Police from Troop B. Our friend Trooper Steve Pizzata is driving the State Police car, joining us as the escort for the 1998 Town of Schuyler Falls Celebration Parade. How you doing, Steve? This, of course, is the host fire department, the Morrisonville Fire Department, with their classic antique fire truck. Fire chief here in Schuyler Falls is Darren Seymour, who has worked very, very hard to get this parade organized. It's always nice when the fire trucks have sirens and horns that work, isn't it? Hey, Uncle Bud. Next vehicle, of course, is the Morrisonville Emergency Squad. Harrison Hobbs, the whole crew, an active organization here in the town of Schuyler Falls for many years, representing all the latest technology, being able to save lives. The next float is from Valley Sanitation, owner Tom Green. We watch these horses all day long, aren't they stupendous? George Seymour is Belgian, SNK Belgian draft horses, absolutely beautiful. Right down to the Dalmatian in the back. These next vehicles represent the town of Schuyler Falls Highway Department. Supervisor George Seymour. They've had a very busy year, as you well imagine, so give them a big round of applause.
Takes a little bit longer to get through the parade when you gotta walk it, so first marching unit is a little bit behind them vehicles. Those vehicles are moving kind of fast. Barely had a chance to glimpse at them. They should be slowing down about half the speed that they're going. I think some of those guys joined the fire department just so they could blow the whistles and the horns.
For our parade today, there are many activities planned not only for today, but for every day in the coming week, culminating with a community garage sale next weekend, which is something you certainly don't want to miss. Before you leave our community today, make sure you go over to the town hall and take in a number of activities there. The next unit coming in front of our reviewing stand at this moment is that of the Katyville Volunteer Fire Department, led by Chief Dale Sears. Clinton County, as you well know, is tremendously proud of the way its fire departments work together and its ambulance crews for the safety of the North Country. We have one of the finest mutual aid systems in New York State, if not the nation. One of the tremendous programs in this community, as in many others across the nation, is that of DARE. Those people who have people at school know how it operates, and we welcome them in our parade here today. Deputy David Brown right there. He doesn't look anything like Deputy Dog, does he? The next float, of course, is from Eric Dorrance. Owner Barb and Eric Dorrance. Thank them so much for their work in helping us organize this year's activity. We know Barbara's been on the committee. Next float, of course, from Ormsby Well Drilling, Harold Ormsby with that big drilling rig that you see working in the area. The Peru Fire Department is here. How you doing, John Roach? 1923 vehicle. Scott Hauser is the chief out there in Peru. Welcome to our parade at Schuyler Falls. How are you?
This must be a politician coming. They always move slow. Now approaching the reviewing stand, Keith Bruno, who is candidate for family court judge here in the North Country. He automatically wins for having the most balloons.
You're going to have to get back upstairs, Mommy.
Patches the clown.
And who doesn't love a clown? The next vehicle you've seen at so many events. That's Dave Justice, our big buddy who Patches the clown, who's done so much for people in this area, especially the youngsters. He's the guy that traveled with all the toys for all the kids who suffered that terrible disaster down in Mechanicville earlier this year.
Give Dave Justice Patches the Clown a huge round of applause. Next vehicle is JR's Auto, the owner Harold Barkham Jr. A couple of units in our parade today. Welcome. Standing approaches right at this moment, Kenny Kipp Plumbing. Kenny Kipp Jr. driving the vehicle today. And following that, one of the most important parade units because it represents a lot of work and a lot of effort and a lot of dedication from many people here in the North Country. If you haven't seen it before, take a good look at it today. Go through it if you can. Hi, Kenneth. This is the Clinton County Firefighters Association project along with the Plattsburgh Noon Rotary. It's called the Fire Safety House. Designed to show youngsters, old people like me and others what it's like to prevent fires. It's completely self-contained and hopefully it will save lots of lives in our county. You haven't begun to see where this vehicle's going to go in the future. It'll be set up here at the fire station later on. Mrs. Liberty is here. Hi. How are you? There's Roger Dasnaw. How are you, sir? Bill McBride vehicle here today. Single Street Van and Septic, the owner Barry White, several vehicles today. Welcome. Is another very important entry in our parade. It belongs to the Red Cross from the North Country. I think they have been so busy over the last year, and as long as I can remember, doing so much for the North Country. This disaster unit is everywhere. And there aren't very many of us whose lives haven't been touched by what the American Red Cross, Northern Clinton Essex Chapter does. Big round of applause for Jeannie Roberts and her group. Another one of our tremendous neighbors in the mutual aid system here in the North Country. This is the Cumberland Head Fire Department led by Chief Art Grove. This is a very unique vehicle should you ever watch it in operation. Cumberland Head Rescue Team with its airboat. Next, of course, is Michael O'Connell, candidate for the New York State Assembly. Next is the Saranac Fire Department, Chief Joe Perry and company. And the next float, very colorful one indeed. Duquette Brothers, Duquette Builders, owner Eric Duquette. Duquette Building and Remodeling. There's your dream home right there. Walcott, candidate for sheriff here in Clinton County. How you doing, John? Looking good. CJ Entertainment is here. A little bit of music in your parade.
Hi, Jody.
And for those of you who like videos, you'll know right across the corner is a video store called Under One Roof. Soon to take a different location across the road in front of my house. Congratulations and welcome to Under One Roof and all the cartoon characters who join us here today. You can't miss that putt-putt sound of the old John Deere, can you, huh? Don't you love it? Baker's Orchards is here today. Bruce and Nina Sullivan. Wonderful, long-standing local business, located only about 2 miles from here. You know what they say about an apple a day? That the Bankers Orchard float will be set up over at the town hall all afternoon if you want to take a good look at it. Smokey the Bear is here. DEC Ranger Tom Gliddy. Smokey on the back. Smokey won't be burning much gas today with a four-wheeler, will he? Hey kids, take a look at this big rig. Northeast Crane Company is here. Tony Bouchard's outfit. Beautiful piece of equipment. If you have a flat tire on that thing, don't call me. Business up in West Chazy, Terry Daniels and the Daniels Sign Company. Get a sample of the work right on the side of the rig. And Cinderella is here too. A good thing this parade doesn't go till midnight, or we might find out something really interesting. And Luck Brothers Construction is here. Not necessarily one of the biggest rigs in the parade, but a very important North Country, Morrisonville, Schuyler Falls business. Owners.
Knights of Columbus, 4th degree. We had to quick battery change here, but we got back. Didn't miss any units. Missed 4 words that Gordy said.
You're gonna have to stay with Mommy for a couple more minutes until I get these trucks parked, okay? No.
And Tamarack Stables are here with their wonderful horses. What would a parade be without horses, huh? Thanks very much to the group for appearing today. Owner is Karen Newton, of course. I hope that's a strong horse under you, Howard.
Biggest one we got. Back up, baby.
You see him.
And approaching us, of course, Assemblyman Chris Ortloff, candidate once again for the New York State Assembly. How are you? Lawless family is here as well.
And Steve May and we have two two lawlesses, Steve May.
Next, of course,
John
is
May.
Gando's
John May
Hydraulics
and,
at
Chris
Gando. Always wonderful new ideas for zebra muscle control in Lake Champlain. Here's the guy that started it all right behind him, Big Ed Yando. South Plattsburgh Fire Department is here. Another country heard from, Jim Joyce and his crew. Welcome to the town of Schuyler Falls.
Okay, you're gonna have to go see Mommy.
The van behind is easy to spot. There are signs all over it. Mr. Frank Zappala, who is running for New York State Assembly on the Democratic ticket.
No, he's running to get on the Democratic ticket.
Country Auto Barn is next. Ron Doty, dirt car race, racing car. Take a look at this one. Thanks to Shirley for supplying some of the marching music for our parade today. There's our friend Roger Burke. Notice who he's got in the rumble seat. Roger's done so much for the North Country via his Pepsi organization. He has personally done a great many things for a great many people. That's a 1930 Model 8 Ford. Ain't it beautiful? And the last unit in our parade today is from Ward Lumber in Jay, New York, a relatively recent addition to this part of the North Country. We welcome them. Followed up by the Morrisonville Fire Department. Our special thanks to Darren Seymour and his lovely wife and the entire community for supporting this 150th anniversary parade in 1998. It's been tremendous. I want to let everyone in the area know that there will be an open house at the fire station this afternoon from noon to 4. There will be open houses at the KFC and the Methodist Church right over here on the corner. There will be an historic walking tour throughout our community between the hours of 2 and 4 this afternoon. We'll be able to get a little education as to where this community has come in the last 150 years. We thank you all for being with us here today. Have a great week and a great life. Again, congratulations to the town of Schuyler Falls, celebrating 150 years in 1998. Have a great day, everybody.
Behind me, Darren Seymour was the chairman of the parade and the organization and getting it set up and established, and I think he's deserving of a great hand. I think he did a great job on the parade. That along with his duties as chief of the Morrisonville Fire Department. And following that, we'd like to get all of this organized and going as quickly as we can. And I would like to introduce to you the present town supervisor, Ray Newell, for a welcome.
Thank you, Bob. Honored guests, residents of the town of Schoolhouse Falls and the county of Clinton, welcome to the 150th anniversary of the town of Schoolhouse Falls. As many people know, that it was enacted April 4th, 1848, and we are so pleased to see everyone here help celebrate. It's an honor for me to be supervisor in this wonderful town. I want to tell you that. Thank you very much, and enjoy yourself, and we're glad that you came. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. I would like to read a letter that we have from our Congressman, John McHugh. It was sent to Beverly Newell, who is co-chair of this committee. I appreciate and thank you for your kind invitation to me to attend the ceremony scheduled for Sunday afternoon, August 15th, in connection with the 150th anniversary of the town of Schoolhouse Falls. While nothing would please me more than to join you and the others gathered for this special event, I regret that it will not be possible. Unfortunately, conflicts in my schedule to be in the western part of our 10-county congressional district on the 15th will preclude my being with you. I want to congratulate you and other residents and officials of the town of Schoolhouse Falls and all those who worked in partnership, giving their time, energies, and support towards the planning for the town's anniversary. This is indeed a momentous occasion for the residents of the town. The town of Schoolhouse Falls is more than a collection of communities. It is more than a place on the map. From its earliest days, it has nurtured the lives and accomplishments of countless individuals. Individuals united through the years by a common love for the place they call home. That sense of community, of responsibility towards one's neighbor and the common good resonates through all towns and cities across America. Again, many thanks for your invitation, and with very good wishes for a successful 150th anniversary celebration, I am sincerely yours, John McHugh, Member of Congress. And I would also like to, one other letter. I am delighted to send you under separate cover an American flag that was flown over the Capitol of the United States on April 4th in recognition of the 150th anniversary of the incorporation of the town of Schoolhouse Falls. I know this flag will be flown with pride and trust. You will not hesitate to let me know if you feel I may be of further assistance to you. John McHugh, Congressman. And this is the flag presented. And now I'd like to present to you the Honorable Senator Ron Stafford.
Thank you for that very flowery and long introduction, Bob. It really makes me feel at home, and we don't want you to embarrass yourself at all. On a serious note, Bob, who is active here, and all of you people who have taken the time to be here to make this all possible, this is really what America is all about. The last thing we want to do is listen to speeches, because they're boring, and on a day like this we just want to have good fellowship and a good time. I used to hunt with Roy Pierce. He lived down the street here. He lived into his 90s, and he used to tell me about Schuyler Falls. And he would tell me the stories about all the families. And it's a community, that's the message. That means I've talked long enough. But I just say to you, Bob and the Newells and all of you, the Seymours, everyone who worked so hard to do this, this just doesn't happen. A lot of hard work for us to enjoy ourselves, to honor a very fine town and very fine people. Thank you very much.
I really shouldn't apologize for this, because he told me to keep it very low key, shorten it up. He said, you got some dark clouds coming up. I don't need any great long introductions. then he does something like this to really work. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to deviate from this either. We are going to try to get through it and make sure that we, without getting wet at all. The Honorable Assemblyman Chris Ortlaw.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Bob. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I can't say any better than the way Senator Stafford put it. Being able to come together as a community and celebrate our history, to remember who we were and who we are today, and the fact that we're going to have a future is the best thing any community can say, and you're very proud, I know, of Schuyler Falls. I just want to say, reading this souvenir booklet, I hope you'll all get a chance to take it home and read it at your leisure. I'd like to especially commend the coordinator of the booklet, Mike Burgess, the town historian. You did a great job, Mike. And this will be a souvenir not only of today, but of 150 years of a community pulling together, living together, growing together, and working together for each other. That's the spirit we're all here in today, and we couldn't do any better than to live that way for the next 150 years. Thank you all.
Thank you, Chris. So you can see we're on a first-name basis. And the Honorable Assemblywoman, Elizabeth Little, I would like to read the letter. She was not able to be with us. She does not represent the town of Schuyler Falls, but does represent the town of Prue. It says, thank you for the invitation to participate in the town's 150th anniversary celebration. Unfortunately, I will not be able to attend due to a scheduling conflict, but I have included an assembly citation. I would appreciate it if you or your designee could read this at the ceremony. And I will read it. Whereas, as it is a sense of our unique society to recognize the achievement of the citizens of our great state, I acknowledge with respect and admiration a milestone in the history of the town of Schuyler Falls on the occasion and celebration of their 150th anniversary. And whereas, attendant to such concern and fully in agreement with our long-standing tradition, it is my intent to convey my compliments and congratulations to the town of Schuyler Falls upon the occasion of their 150th anniversary. Now therefore be it resolved that as a duly elected member of the State Assembly of New York, I recognize that in the town of Schuyler Falls, we have a town who is worthy of public recognition and commendation for their outstanding achievements. And witness, therefore, I have hereunto set my hand, Elizabeth O. C. Little, Member of Assembly, August 15, 1998. Beverly, you're not doing the certificates right now.
No, we're waiting until 1 o'clock.
Okay. I would like to call on the Knights of Columbus, Grand Knight, Ron Ledoux.
Thank you, Bob. I would like to, on behalf of the Monsignor Gobet Council 6067 in Morrisonville, thank the town of Schuyler Falls for letting us take part in this parade and also take part in this program. We in Council 6067 feel being recognized by the town is very important to us. And today, as part of your 150th anniversary, we'd like to recognize one of our older members. This gentleman was born in 1903. He attended local schools. He worked for many years at O'Neill Packing Company. For many years, he was a town clerk of the town of Schuyler Falls. He joined the Knights of Columbus in 1928. And after our council was activated here in Morrisonville, he spent many years as an active member. Today, we would like to honor Brother Wilford Tremblay, who is 95 years old and the oldest member of our council. Brother Tremblay isn't able to be here today, but I, as Grand Knight, will see that he gets his certificate presented to him at the nursing home. I would like to also at this time thank the widows of our deceased members who rode in the parade with us, and also the 4th Degree Honor Guard for being part of our program. And again, thank you very much for being part of your program.
Many of you probably recognize the name Wilford Trombley, but better known as Babe, who was a town clerk. I have probably 30-some years, I think, Roger, right? 33 years he was town clerk, Roger. Was an institution here in the town for years and years and years. Very honorable individual. I would like to present now some certificates of achievement to some of the people here that we have on the stand. The first one goes to the Clinton County historian, who always does a tremendous job helping the towns out in this area, as well as being the county historian, but she represents all the 14 towns as well and does a great job there. Addie Shields. And one of our old school teachers and also a former supervisor of the town, and I know he was a tax collector and held numerous jobs, but also was a teacher in this area for some years before going to work in private industry and making a very lucrative salary. George St. John's. Another young lady that's here with us today is another former teacher and taught in the old Morrisonville school. And today is her birthday, and I would like you to recognize Dorothy Carter. She is 90 years young today, and we're extremely pleased to have her. She's made a trip back here to just be with us for this day. This is one of those times I wish that Gordy Little was standing up here so he could lead us. I absolutely promised my wife that I would not even attempt to start the song because I didn't want to embarrass the family. Next certificate of achievement I would like to present to a young man that has really achieved some outstanding notoriety for this town. Larry Dolan is the first and the only Olympic participant that I know of from the town of Scholar Falls and from the Morrisonville area. This young man participated in the last Olympics in Japan and was one of the luge participants. Did quite well. We're extremely proud of him and a remarkable individual, and now he's decided that he's going to become a full-time college student. Please recognize Larry Dolan, our first and only Olympic participant. I'm sure all the young kids would like to hear something from Larry Dolan.
Well, thanks a lot, everybody. I'm very proud to be from Morrisonville. A lot of people would think that it's kind of funny being from a small town and going to the Olympics, but I think it's much better because you have all recognized my achievements and my accomplishments, and very few people have, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Really quite an achievement for a young guy that was born down on Mason Street, not too far from where I live. Matter of fact, it was next door. But now I'd like to present the supervisor of Town of Scholar Falls, Ray Newell.
Thank you. As everyone knows, Judge Dajna is a legend in the town of Scholar Falls. As most people know also that Roger was giving the Liberty Bell Award back in April. May, stand to be corrected. And there is no one deserves recognition like Roger Dajna for the swell job that he has been as our town justice for 42 years. Roger Dajna, would you step up here, please? Roger, on behalf of the Historical Society and the town of Scholar Falls, we'd like to present you with a certificate of achievement, also a special edition of the covenant that the committee has formed, and we want to thank you very much for the fine job that you have done as town justice.
Just a word, I guess, that I'd have to say this. You know, I've heard the old saying, good things come in threes. Well, I'm beginning to believe it. Because back in February, I got an award from the VFW in Peru. And back in May, I got this Liberty Bell Award through the Clinton County Bar Association, which was nice. And now I'm receiving this award here. But now, let me say this to you. I couldn't have received any of these awards if it hadn't have been for the people in Scholar Falls. They're the ones that kept me here. And I appreciate that. And I will do everything as I have done in the past to try to help you people as much as possible in my capacity. And again, thank you much.
And we have one more award that I would like to present. If we could have Darren Seymour come up here. As we were talking previously, Darren is the fire chief, and he was the parade chairman, and I think he did a tremendous job getting the parade organized, and it was not an easy task, I can assure you, because there were a lot of phone calls, and there were people at the last minute decided that they wanted to be in the parade. They hadn't bothered to call for the 3 months before this. But Darren Seymour, we'd like to present you with this certificate of achievement. I would like to present certificates of achievements to the previous town supervisors that, with the exception of one that we neglected to recognize that we just talked about, that were here previously. Do we have Reggie Dermody? Reggie is a former town supervisor. James Luck. And we do have Bob Rabideau here, if you would. Bob Rabideau, a former town supervisor. Bernard Barber. Leonard Rock is. Ray Newell, former and present. And I think we do have one missing. We do have one missing for George St. John's, who is a former town supervisor. We'll get it to you. And one more person, the one that you're looking at, and congratulations, Bob. Thank you very much. Well, I would be negligent if I did not present to you the present town board, I think, who had a great deal to do with this and was very responsible for making, at least initiating the action on this. The present town supervisor, Ray Newell, the councilman Jefferson Duquette, William LePage, Carol Arnsby, and Clifton Christian. We will be having some other ceremonies take place at approximately 1 o'clock, and we kind of set those aside, but I would like to have you just recognize the 150th anniversary committee members, and I'll read all the names, and if you would be patient, and we can give them a really rousing ovation after. The chairman was Beverly Newell. Judy Seymour was the assistant chairperson. Michael Burgess, the historian, who they did a great job. Michael did, and if you go inside the building, they have a display in there that really is quite impressive. Shirley Balco, Betty Brown, Sylvia Burgess, Clifton Christian, Marion Christian, who is still wandering around here dressed in costume, Ed Connors, Myra Decker, Barbara Dorrance, Reg Facto, Leona Gadway, Joanne Hockney, Etta Kelly, Jerry Kelly, Carol McLean, Crystal Russell, and Darren Seymour. All of these people did one tremendous job, and I can't tell you how many meetings they had, but they were at the tail end. They were meeting twice a week. They deserve a really long ovation. And I have one other person that we neglected to honor, and we will be getting a certificate to her, and that's Miss Kate Liberty, who 94 years young and just stopped driving herself around. Kate is going to cut the cake. It's not a wedding cake, by the way, it's an anniversary cake, but we don't want to get you hooked up in that cake. But Kate will cut the first cake, and we will be back here at approximately 1 o'clock for the remainder of the ceremonies. Thank you very much for attending, and for all of the participants, the honored guests up here and so forth. We really appreciate your presence. Thank you.
No, you. And the first thing Beverly Newell said, don't you want to talk to the historian instead? No, I want to talk to you. I mean, isn't she just as cute as a button with his outfit on?
Oh, just lovely. 1800s.
Bev Newell, what do you think after all the hard work? Is it good so far?
I think with all the help we had so many good people working on this project since February, and it only works if a lot of people help out and really work at it, and I think it's just terrific.
You know, it takes a lot of midnight oil to put something like this together, and I know that right up to the last moment this morning there were pieces of this puzzle still falling into place.
Yes.
It's not easy to do. It's not easy to find people who have the time to spend, and I know how many hours you and Shirley and all the other people spent. And it's sometimes difficult.
It's really rewarding to know that, you know, all the people can share in our town history and share in our festivities, and we're going to be working at it all week. We have a lot of different things that are going to be going on all during the week.
Well, it's something that you planned for a long time and will continue day after day after day. This is the big focus.
Yes.
This was the parade, which was immensely successful, and we thank Darren over and over again because we know what trials and tribulations he had trying to get that organized. It was a very smooth parade.
Yes, it was. It was very nice. And at first we started, we only had like maybe about 12 people involved. We said, oh my land, you know, we haven't had a parade in 25 years, but then people just kept coming and coming, and it was wonderful.
You know, it's great to see the older senior citizens here,
Yes.
the people in their 90s who've been around here all their lives, watch this community grow and help us celebrate.
We have 68 seniors in this town over 80 years old.
It must be the water.
Yes, yes.
I don't know
And
what
the
it is.
healthy living in the country.
You know, it is. It's a wonderful town to live in. Every town, as I said in the very beginning before our parade started, every town's like a little neighborhood. It has its families that have lived there forever and ever and ever, and new people like me have only been here since the early 70s in this town.
We consider everybody part of our town. No matter if you're just here 1 year, 1 month, it's all a sharing process in our town with people welcoming people. We're all citizens of the town.
Now, besides the big parade, you have lots of other activities. This town hall, for example, is a focus of a lot of things going on today.
We have a museum set up inside, right into rooms, and we have a blacksmith working out here. We have our orchardist here that's participating. We're going to have things going on during the week that's all historical. We're going to have a historical walk tomorrow, and with you're leading our procession. And we're going
that was today. That's tomorrow?
Today. Sorry, I'm all my dates.
I would be glad to do it again.
Today.
This
afternoon.
Yeah, on Saturday.
And it's self-walking tour. I mean,
I'm not going to carry anybody. I'm going to have trouble getting this big body around myself. But I got to tell you.
Tomorrow we're having a self-guided garden tour in the town. We have 4 people that are showing their gardens, and this will be, they can come up and pick up maps in the morning. And we're going to have vegetable contests and jams and jellies and pies, and we're going to have games, and we're going to have some more history going on tomorrow and during the week. And then we're going to have the fiddlers, the old-time fiddlers.
I love them.
And we want people who are fiddlers or guitar players or whatever from our town here to participate. That will be free to the public. And that will be on Thursday night from 6:30 to 9:30 at the KSC Hall. And then on Friday night, we're having an old-fashioned box lunch dinner dance where the lady makes a box
Boy, do I
lunch.
remember those. Calvin's not old enough, but I remember the old box lunches. Yeah.
And we hope that her beau will bid on it and eat with her. And then we have an old-fashioned square dance with the Country Trio +1. And then to round it all off, Saturday and Sunday, we have our townwide garage sales, which is our 5th annual. And so if people want any information, they can call the town hall or stop in. And we have programs all over advertising this. It's just
So
going to be
great to see this happen.
Wonderful week.
There are many other areas in the North Country celebrating anniversaries this year. It seems everybody's got one of some kind in 1998, but the 150th is really special.
It really
I'm so
is.
glad you discovered those old documents from 1848 to show that this all started 150 years ago in April.
Yes, it's just marvelous to know we're that old, because before we were established as a town, we were part of the town of Plattsburgh, many years ago. And we're trying to protect all the history that we can. And we borrowed artifacts, we've copied pictures, and we hope to have this ongoing and, have different setups at different times with a video going. And if people are interested in, we'll set up different programs if people would be interested in seeing them too.
Well, I bet you they will. Bev, thanks so much for talking with us.
Well,
thanks
you for being here.
especially for all of your hard work for this town.
Well, we all did it together. And get on your walking shoes for this afternoon.
We'll be doing that a little bit later on. That, of course, is Bev Newell, whose husband Raymond is the town supervisor for the 2nd time. Beverly's been involved in so many things in the North Country with cooperative extension. And I don't know, are you doing any canning this year?
Yes, we are. And I also have a garden group going. We have an environmental garden group, which used to be my former master gardeners. There's 12 of us that's met for the last 4 years once a month. And we do help people if they want some advice on their gardens or whatever, too.
Terrific. Good luck, Beverly.
Thank you very much.
Nice outfit. Isn't that pretty neat? I feel like I'm stepping back in time. What an amazing metamorphosis inside the Morrisonville Town of Schuyler Falls Town Hall. A little historical museum set up especially for the 150th anniversary celebration. You talk about a town historian. You expect to see some mature, maybe not aged, but at least middle-aged person who's lived a great chunk of the history of the town. Not so. We have a vibrant young man, Michael Burgess. How are you?
Oh, not too bad.
That's terrific. You know, I just learned yesterday that your grandfather was such a dear friend of mine, the old clockmaker, Alfred Rock with the Clock, I used to call him.
Oh, yeah. He's used to do a lot of clock and watch repair and make parts that he couldn't order, and he was a good one.
He was amazing. I remember many years ago him saying, Gordy, I don't know if you can afford it, but I got to charge you $2 an hour to work on your clocks. And he would get in there with those little teeny old watches and make little chains and parts for them. And he ran a grocery store in Woods Mills for, do you know how many years, Michael?
Oh, a long time.
Come on, you're the historian. You got to know that stuff. 60-some years, right?
Must have been, yeah.
It was 60-some years. You spent a lot of your childhood up there, too.
Oh, a lot of hours, a lot of days, a lot of months, a lot of years.
Well, how did you get involved in the real history of this town?
Well, I started back 1988, right after the bicentennial. I got into the Historical Society, and a few years later, I got a call from Bernard Barber and needed a new historian, so I took over.
There's a lot to learn.
Oh, yeah. Still learning every day. Always something new, and something comes up every single day. Every time you do research, you find something you've never seen before, and it's fun.
I love the old photographs, don't you?
Oh, yeah. There's always, wish you knew everybody that was in them, all the people, but maybe someday someone will recognize
Don't you
them.
wish, I've always wished that I could step in a time machine and step out in early April 1848 to see what the mood was and trying to separate from the town of Plattsburgh and become your own town, to look around. We didn't even have photographs in 1848. We didn't get those for a few years after that, so we got to rely on whatever old papers we can find, old newspapers and whatever, but we got a pretty good idea.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you got personal narratives that they put in the papers and the stories. They're not always accurate, but...
No, not necessarily.
You know, even today, they're not accurate, but you've got to, you can take it with a grain of salt sometimes, and you've got to draw conclusions, and it works out.
Now, tell me how you got all this stuff together and explain some of the stuff in this room for us, will you?
Well, through the historical committee, we had a few people that had some antiques and brought them in. I mean, Ray Newell, the supervisor, brought some in. We had quite a few we brought in. I mean, you start with the wall over there. We kind of built that one Sunday afternoon, papered it yesterday. Yeah, just trying to cover that window they had over there, and it really looks like a house with that over there.
Got a little cupboard over there with a lot of the old glassware inside. This is the canning time of the year, and we can see some of the old ball jars and with the lead covers. And this room itself brings back many memories for me. Not that I go back to the 1800s, but a lot of these old things were familiar things in my home, even as a young boy, some 60 years ago. You got some shelves over there. Well, you got some fruit. Walk over here with me and just explain what we're looking at.
Well, we set up a kitchen corner, kind of the way it looked with the pie crust rolled out, just to give people an idea what things probably looked like back, maybe not in 1848, but early 19th, late 18th century. And it fits right over there. The old clock on the wall, and God Bless Our Home picture. It fits into what an old house.
What would you be without a God Bless Our Home picture? That's for sure. Old photograph. I don't know who those people over there on the wall are. Do you?
That's supervisors. I can't read the year on it, but that was the county supervisors one year. That hangs in here all the time. We just needed a place to store it for a little while, so we hung it over there.
A lot of collections of things here. You've got old chairs, a little teeny tiny stove.
Yep, that came from George St. John. He's got a great big one we'd like to have, but it'd be too hard to move.
I imagine that little one weighs more than 10 pounds.
Oh, yeah. It's not too bad.
Oh, and that little thing for making maybe cornbread or something?
Corn muffin, yeah. That's a muffin pan. Yeah, just shapes like corn.
I see a draw shave right next to it and a glass jug and maybe I don't know if that's a three-legged milking stool or what that
looks
is
like
behind
it.
there.
I think it's a three-legged milking stool. Don't want to sit on it now, but...
No, and nor would I. If you wouldn't, I certainly wouldn't want to. We have a dry sink over here in the center of your wall. A lot of people don't know what the word dry sink even means.
No, you just know it's there. I guess you keep
There's
water
no
in
running
the
water. You
no
have to
running
bring your
water.
own,
Yep,
baby.
you bring your own water in. Have a bowl and pitcher usually, and clean everything in there.
Yep, and old-fashioned. I mean, this is how you washed your clothes, with a tub and a washboard at one point, and then there's the wringer was a relatively more modern invention that was added later. It was one tub and then another tub for a long time.
Oh yeah, that one the other side folds down for another tub, but for space constraints we only use one side today.
And the thing right next to it, you might think is a toilet plunger, but that's not necessarily accurate.
No, that's they use it in washing. I guess it's an agitator in your galvanized thing, and kind of works like the ones today.
Horsepower and motor power was arm power.
Yep, back then it was arm power, and that's what a lot of it was.
I can remember my mother having me washing in either big tubs or in the bathtub, and working on those blankets all day long with that great big thing back and forth. On the left-hand side to that, we see a very old ironing board, and some of the old cast iron irons. People may not realize that many of them had removable handles. You put them on the stove and warm them up, and take your wooden handle and change it from one iron to the next. As one cooled, you hooked up to another one and went about your work, right?
Yep, one of them over there has a removable handle. The others are, affixed to it, but they're heavy. I wouldn't want to iron with those today.
Well, it looks hanging up there. I see a lantern, and I see a rug beater. I've done that a few times in my lifetime too.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that my mother didn't chase me with that a few times because of the nasty things I did. And right next to that is, I don't know if that's for socks, to make knit socks on, or what is that?
I think it's a sock stretcher.
Sock stretcher? Yeah. Is that what that is?
Stretch your socks out.
I thought the Burgesses would know that behind me. I thought I heard. And candles hanging, right? Are those tapers hanging on the wall over there? What is that hanging?
No, that's a drying rack.
Oh, a drying rack.
Drying rack, yep.
Oh, yes. That shows you how good my trifocals are working. Yeah, those fold out, right?
They fold out. That one doesn't stay up, so we kind of had to hang it flat today.
And down by the left of the dry sink, way down on the floor, is what is that, a mini butter churn?
Yep,
What is that?
It's a glass butter churn. We're going to be using that in our demonstration tomorrow, so you can actually see what's happening inside the jar.
Yeah, I'm sure young people and even some older people may not know how that process works. It's in those days, it wasn't a matter of going into the store and buying a pound of butter, was it?
No, you had to do all your own. We'll milk the cow and take the cream off and do it all by hand.
There are other things that are fairly familiar as we go around the room to the left. This is a very fine spinning wheel. Where did you find that, Michael?
Nancy Sheen had that. She used to live up in the old parsonage for the Methodist Church across from where Atkinson's is, and I guess that was in the barn in the back or the shed in the back, and she took it out when she was there, and she brought it down, and we set it up. It was built, I guess it's handmade right here in the town, so it fits in pretty good.
Oh, that's pretty terrific. And as people who might be with us on our walking tour later this afternoon will know, that Methodist Church was disassembled, brought all the way down from the Atkinson property back in the 1800s and reassembled right on the main street here in Plattsburgh. And shortly after they put it up, a strong wind came and knocked it down. They were persistent people back in those days, so they got it up again, and it still stands.
Yeah, they rebuilt it after it blew down, and they had to get a few new boards, I guess, but it's still there today, the original structure.
You know, my good friend Leo Perry, who had your position for a while some years back, said they were moving people back in those days. And as you learn when you study the history of the town, things today look different because of the way the road is placed, and when the road was replaced in Route 22B back in the early 60s. But the buildings were moved. I mean, we moved that church down here. We moved the Baptist church from one side of the road to the other. We moved the old schoolhouses when they weren't schoolhouses anymore, and they became private homes. And they moved some of the houses, too.
Oh, yeah, they moved houses. I know up in my area, Woods Mills, they're right next door is an old schoolhouse they moved from down by the bridge down there. And everything, they moved it. I don't know why sometimes, but they just...
A whole different ballgame moving houses then than it is now.
I would think so. A little more difficult. But they did it.
It's just so much fun. You know, this little kitchen table just makes you feel at home, doesn't it, when you look at it?
Yep, one Ray Newell had. He brought it in. They keep it in their living room. He stripped all about like I said, 8 or 10 layers of paint off of it, and he left it natural. It looks really good right there.
Well, I'll tell you, Michael, you have done a superb job on this room. As I look over here, we see chairs. Many chairs were caned back in those days. This isn't caning. That's a different process for this old chair, isn't it?
Yeah, it looks like they kind of weaved the cording through, and I guess it worked.
Some of those arts are almost lost. Caning art, they still teach classes in caning because a lot of people cane the old chairs. Got a great old drop leaf table here. That's beautiful. And the old kerosene lamps. And many of us who saved those kerosene lamps found they came in mighty handy around January 8th. That date will be an infamous name in history, or date in history.
Oh yeah, we used all our oil lamps, and we even siphoned some kerosene out of our tank to use, and it worked. We got through it.
We didn't have to find the perfumed kerosene. We used whatever we could burn back in those days. The old-fashioned rocking chair, which is wonderful, probably didn't originally have that cover that's on there now, but it's a beautiful old chair.
Yeah, that used to have a cane seat on it. I guess it was broken, and they refinished it and put another seat on it.
Yeah, we got the old sewing thing here, which was used for sewing or whatever it might be used for. We have a great old trunk. Trunks are going for pretty good money these days for people who might have old trunks in their attic.
Oh yeah, some of them go pretty good. That one, my mother traded some clothing for quite a while ago. She used to make clothing for somebody, and they traded, and it's been around for quite a while in our house. My brother has it now at his house. Kept our board games in it.
And above that, of course, is that's a religious artifact, isn't it?
Yep, we got that out of my father's parents' house, my grandmother, and that one, I guess it's for when they come in with the host, and you had the bottle for holy water and a spoon to use it with, and a little dish. And
for the last rite, is that what that would be?
I think so. That's what it was used for, and we took it out, and my brother's got it up at his house. We thought it looked good down here because everybody had religious pictures and materials, so we hung it up.
That's terrific. And to the left of that, and that's boy, talk about a classic item. Isn't that neat? Yeah. With a bowl that fits right in. I don't know if that bowl has stayed with it over the years, but it fits there very nicely.
I don't know. I think it's an actual original. We looked at the bottom. I think it's at 1890 on the bowl. I know that was Donna Carter's brought that in, and it fits in the corner, so we figured we'd use it there.
That's pretty neat. New York State Fair Department of Dairy Products Diploma. What is that, John? I can't read it. John Conroy.
John Conroy.
There's a historic name in our town as well.
Yeah, 1922, I think, is up there. September 11th, 1922. I guess he was given that. I guess he owned a butter and cheese factory in the area, and he got it.
That's would be Arnold Conroy's father, maybe.
I think so.
Oh, yeah,
yep,
I see nodding around the room. Yep, Arnold Conroy, a fixture in our community for a long time, and we'll be talking about him during our historical walking tour here. Of course, the quilt making, and we're selling a historic coverlet as part of our historic celebration with photographs transposed onto the coverlet, and those are pretty neat.
Oh yeah, we had to find a few different pictures to put on. I wanted to kind of represent every area of the town, so we got some Morrisonville, some up in Woods Mills, some in Schuyler Falls, some old, some new, the new St. Alexander's Church, new fire station, so it'd be different.
But making things to cover beds with and so on, were a great part of any of our nation's history, but here in the town of Schuyler Falls, the old quilts, the old bed coverings, and you wonder where the pieces of cloth that they used in these coverings all came from. Somebody's blue jeans and somebody's bib overalls and somebody's old shirt or a kitchen towel or a flour bag. It could have been anything.
Oh yeah, they used to use whatever they had, old shirts,
How are you?
old everything. And some of those are corduroy, grandparents made or great-grandparents made, and they're interesting.
They're nice to keep. Some people keep them preserved in their hope chests, and some people put them on their beds every day. But boy, the old song, "The Quilting Party," rings true when you think about how all the ladies would get together and have the quilt stretcher somewhere in the parlor maybe, and they'd get together on an evening and each work on a different part of the quilt, right?
Yep, they'd quilt it all, and today you get maybe one or two people working on a quilt to quilt it, but...
If you find anybody to do that anymore.
Oh yeah, sometimes. There's still a few people around that do it, but not quite quite so many.
But they're now, thanks to people like you and other people who like to preserve the history of the area in which they live, there are quilting shows around the country, and I've been to a few of them in rural areas where you see pretty stupendous stuff. You know?
Oh yeah, there's some excellent quilters out there, and they know their business and they know what they're doing, and it really comes out great.
Now, inside the top there, over that quilt, that is a tin container of some kind.
Yep, tin container. I don't remember who brought that one in, but I guess that was someone's father's sewing container. And
really?
Yep, so we put it over with the quilts and the buttons.
I remember the tin containers with a bale or a handle on it that you could go and get your pint or your quart of beer in. And in our particular case, since my dad was a minister and there wasn't any drinking going on, the butcher made clam chowder once a week, and I'd take a thing just about that size with a handle on, go and get our supply of clam chowder, which I dearly loved. You and I are going to move to the left a little bit so Calvin can look underneath this old quilt and see that quart jar of buttons. Who these days, somewhere in their house, doesn't have a collection of buttons?
Oh, I'm sure everybody does if they look for it. There's buttons all over. We used to have a big tin full of buttons one time. That was somebody else's. Let my mother borrow it, and we got that at my grandparents' house. They had a whole drawer full of buttons. We stuck them in a jar, and they weren't good for display. If you need some, sometimes something matches your shirt buttons, you use it.
Nowadays, a young homemaker, if she needs a button, will go to the store and buy a little card with 2 buttons on it. In those days, our parents and our grandparents and our great-grandparents invented recycling.
Oh, yeah.
And nothing was thrown away. We've already shown how the scraps of material would be used to make something, but the socks were darned, and if a button was gone, you'd go to the old button jar and find one that would do.
Yep, you find one. If it didn't match perfect, well, it worked anyways. You had to use what you had. They didn't have the money to go out and buy new clothes all the time or new accessories all the time, so they had to make do with what they had.
Well, you know, that's where the phrase store-bought came from. For a long time, people were pretty self-sufficient. And in this area, 150 years ago, everybody had to be pretty self-sufficient unless you had an awful lot of money. Somebody in your family or somebody down the street had to make all of your stuff.
Oh, usually there may have been 1 or 2 people in the area that would, do everybody's clothing or grind their corn or grind their wheat or anything. So you get a lot of family businesses were set up back then, and it paid off. Do it in trade rather than money. Trade them a chicken for whatever. Everybody got what they needed.
That's where bartering began. Still, a lot of people do barter their services, and it seems to work well even in this day and age. Michael, you're a terrific guy. Thank you so much for all of your hard work, and I can't wait until we get on that walking tour later today.
It might be fun. See if we remember everything. Hopefully we do.
Michael Burgess, who is the town historian for the town of Schuyler Falls. Hi-ho, it's off to school we go. Every community back in the old days had its own schoolhouse or schoolhouses. I made a study of the one-room schoolhouses in Clinton County some years ago as we found a collection of slides from Plattsburgh SUNY without a narrative. And we spent years trying to find out where the schools were, and we had a lot of fun in the process and learned a great deal of history. Interestingly enough, many of those one-room schoolhouses survive today. But as we said a short time ago, as we talked with the town historian, Michael Burgess, a lot of the schoolhouses have been moved and have changed a great deal over the years. For example, this schoolhouse that I'm pointing to at the intersection of Beckwood Street or Route 22B and the Staley Road looks quite a bit different today than it did back in the early days because it's an absolutely beautiful home now. During the Second World War, people would climb up into this belfry, if you will, and they would work for the civilian defense as airplane spotters. As a small child, I remember attending meetings where they would show us silhouettes and pictures of enemy aircraft, German aircraft, British aircraft. British, of course, were not the enemy, but all kinds of Japanese aircraft and our own aircraft. So we would go up there working for the civilian defense, and we'd climb up into places like this or on rooftops or widows' walks, as they call them on the old houses, and spend a couple hours a day and search for aircraft. And every time an aircraft of any kind would fly over, we'd look at our little charts, identify it, and then you were supposed to make a telephone call to civilian defense headquarters and let them know if it was an enemy aircraft. So that's what we did, and many people did. There are some other schoolhouses here, but part of our 150th anniversary celebration has to do with the history of the larger schools here in the town of Schuyler Falls, and many communities. For many of our viewers who are watching now can get an idea how this thing transpired, because it looked roughly the same in their own community. We apologize in that some of these photographs are extremely dark and it's hard to make out details, but this is the original Morrisonville High School that was torn down and replaced in the late 1800s. And this is what the second schoolhouse looked like in about 1904. And we're talking about grades 1 through 12 here. This is the whole gamut from the beginning to end. There was quite a transformation that took place about 6 years later in 1910, as a large major addition was added to the school. And the very bottom photograph shows how that looked when it was all finished. So you can get the beginning, during, and after photographs. And I believe the last class graduated from that high school in 1957. There was a great deal of controversy, as there was in many communities, as to how the schools would be centralized and where would the central school building be located. Many of the older folks listening now are chuckling because they know if they served on school boards and knew people who did, or read newspaper articles back in those days, they know what a controversy that was, because everybody wanted the schoolhouse built fairly close so the kids wouldn't have to walk to school or be bused to school. As it ended up in this town, the schoolhouse was not replaced in its original position. We have a beautiful church. St. Alexander's Church is located there now. The school, in this case, ended up in Saranac, near Pickett's Corners. For those who've been up there, they know that's part of the Saranac School District. Down over here, you may not recognize this as a school bus, but this is exactly how the kids got to school back in the old days, with a sleigh pulled by a couple of horses. Ultimately, the Morrisonville Elementary School was built. You can find this if you take a ride to our fair town and ride up the Sand Road. The reason that it's significant is, number one, it's a fine elementary school as part of the Saranac school system, but there is a vantage point up there to look down into the community and compare what it looks like now to some of the old photographs from the late 1800s and early 1900s. That is pretty stupendous. This is the Woods Mill Schoolhouse that our historian talked about a few minutes ago as part of our program, that moved to Rabideau Street and is now a part of a home. Over here on the right-hand side, you can see some photographs from parades that date back into the 1920s and 1930s. A group of photographs of historic monuments, of mills in the area. This was a tremendously busy town back in the old days. This is what the present Morrisonville Fire Station looks like. It wasn't always so. There was a tremendous fire in the middle of the night in the 1950s, as those people might have known if they watched the parade today. And it's pretty bad when a firehouse burns down, but when you can't even ring the siren because the wires are burned off, it's pretty tough to get help in the middle of the night. And various other communities arrived to help put out the fire, but nobody was hurt. And that's what happened. Now, right here, we talked to, I believe that's Michael Burgess's grandfather's store, which he ran for many years in Woods Mills, unless I missed my guess. And his grandfather was a tremendous clockmaker who learned how to fix clocks as kind of a tinkerer during the Second World War, because people couldn't buy new things and new clocks. So this is an idea of some of the things that are going inside here in the town of Schuyler Falls on this historic occasion of the 150th anniversary. Over here on the left-hand side, we talk about burying grounds. There were private cemeteries. This is even the remnants of one of the old gravestones that dates back to the middle 1850s, as we have many graves here in Schuyler Falls and in Clinton County that date back all the way back into the 1700s. And there are a lot of historic cemeteries in and around the city of Plattsburgh as well, where people lie who were involved in the military history. As you know, most of the towns in this general area were involved in the War of 1812, famous for the Battle of Plattsburgh on September 11th, 1814. And a lot of the burying grounds here and at Crab Island and elsewhere contain the remains of people who were killed in that war. There is a memorial plaque located near the bridge in Plattsburgh, what we call the Iron Bridge or the Green Bridge in Plattsburgh, or in the town of Schuyler Falls, that commemorates a little skirmish during the Battle of Plattsburgh, and they happened while the actual naval battle was taking place. There were skirmishes all around the North Country, north of Plattsburgh, and even here, and a lot of them had to do with forces trying to cross the Saranac River. And if you read that memorial plaque sometime, you'll learn that it's very brief, but the message is that killed during that skirmish were 3 British soldiers and a horse. There's a great deal more to learn, and we'll tell you some more about this celebration in the town of Schuyler Falls. Schuyler Falls, and specifically the village of Morrisonville, were pretty humming places around the turn of the century. Here is a photograph I referred to earlier as being a good vantage point of roughly where the elementary school is located on the Sand Road. This photograph was taken in 1892. Some of the buildings are still in existence. It's very hard because of the cloudy atmosphere you get in that photograph to pick things out. But over here to the right-hand side would be, if you could see it, the original St. Alexander's Church, even before the steeple was put on. It's gone now, and it's an empty lot behind where the church would be now, not far from the rectory. The road itself has changed, and did change a great deal in 1961 when Route 22B was widened. But these are all the mills along the Saranac River at that time. There were a lot of mills going on. There were pulp operations across the river. There was a wooden bridge that went right across the river at that point. There was a dam just above that, above actually where the beach would be in Morrisonville today, although they don't use it as a recreation beach anymore. There are a great many historical buildings. These are photographs of those buildings. This is a photograph of a home for those people who live in the area, which would be located near the road, not far from the intersection of Route 22B and the Sand Road and the Kent Falls Road. The late Marvin Bushy's home is located just to the rear of that. This was a tremendously beautiful brick building that was in fine shape when it had to be destroyed for this road project in 1961. It was a tragedy for those people who loved that kind of architecture, because the solid oak door in the front was over 3 inches thick. The beautiful cut glass around the door was just tremendous, and the whole thing was moved, as you know, to replace that road in 1961. If you want to talk about churches, there is a religious heritage in our town that is tremendous. As we mentioned before, the St. Alexander's Church does not exist anymore in its original form, but it was an amazing, beautiful interior. It was remodeled and then ultimately removed. And when the school Morrisonville School was taken down, the new church was built, and this is what St. Alexander's Church looks like today, the site of the old schoolhouse. And we think we know within 100 feet or so where the original school was located in the town of Schuyler Falls, and those people who want to know where that is can talk to the historian, and perhaps some of those people who take the historic walking tour with us this afternoon will be shown where we believe it was located. It's kind of a fun thing for all the people who get involved. You're seeing me on camera, but my contribution to this 150th anniversary celebration of the town of Schuyler Falls is relatively minuscule compared to all the time people like Bev Newell and Shirley Balco, the historian, the Historical Society, the firemen, the friends and neighbors have all put in to make this thing successful. And for those people who have attended the activities, and for those people who view it on this program called Our Little Corner, I think you can get a taste of the flavor of how much fun it is to celebrate our history. And as some of the speakers said during the celebration that you saw on a stage right outside this building after the parade, you have to know where you've been, where you are, to know where you're going. Who knows where we're going to be going next time for our program called